Yo, what is good, my anime faithful? What is good, yo? Guys, Infinite Game has finally gave us a little bit of an understanding of why the heck our character is the way he is, and just some of the stuff he's gone through as a whole. So, I'm proud to say we finally learned something about this character outside of just knowing about the world itself, and we obviously can understand a lot more of why he holds such a high esteem for protecting and why he will be one of the first persons to stick his neck out practically for anyone, right? Like, from what we understand, there's not much that's going to deter him from sacrificing his life or just making sure that um, whoever is in his vicinity is saved the best he can do, which is pretty amazing. Um, it just now comes down to the fact of the matter of what does uh, what does this do for our character as a whole now that he knows this little bit much more of his abilities, of his skills, and where does it put him as a whole in the case of just how much powerful can he become, how much of this stuff is, really going to be driven home to the fact of because of his personality, because of the things he has going on outside of the video game and inside, that is going to change him or make him a better character. What are those things, and like how are they going to get into him, right? So that's one thing I've really noticed about the show that I really care about, is why is he the way he is, and to know that as even a young kid he jumped out in front of practically a car to save somebody is very telling of his personality. It's very telling of just how much he puts forward in everything that he does, which is also a really cool part about just learning more about this character and really just um, seeing where things are going to turn out, right? Like everything usually happens for a reason in anime, and it just felt like this was one of the shows that finally nothing was really helpful from just the character's perspective, but only from this perspective of the world. Like the world itself kept growing, but he did not. So it's nice to see it be different. It's nice to see the world itself not be the only growing growth this week's episode finally. And like I was saying, it was going to be pretty clear that he was going to be a somewhat of a hero type, that just make sure things are tight and neat. Um, so I now just want to know where his story is going. Like I know that as a kid till now, he has not changed much on his ideals of protecting people and making sure others come out safe and sound. So it's one of those types of characters that you just kind of want to vote for, including with how much effort he puts in. Not only just effort, but he doesn't even want to touch the loot that he earned from this demon. And usually that's like a really dumb move, and everybody in the background's like, "Oh my God, he didn't take the money and take all this, all of his loot." But this show, with its world being so interesting, right? All of a sudden, they use that as a reason for, um, like, it's a good reason why he doesn't do that, right? It's a good reason, or he got lucky that he didn't do that, because if he did, we would have seen the most broken monster of all times with him fused inside of it. So He saved us a he saved the show pretty much. The show would have probably ended at that given time. And thanks to him not touching the stuff and wanting to really uh, be greedy and take the loot and all that stuff, it turns into a situation now where he is experiencing what would have happened to him, and he would have been a part of the two demons that were defeated, plus everything of his abilities probably would have been added in there. So, yeah, take that as you will, like how broken that would be. And speaking of broken, he is being monitored heavily. Not only by the guy who's behind the screens making stuff happen, but he's also being monitored by the penguin guy who wound up giving him the ears, which he had throughout all this week. So I guess maybe that's the way he's been tapped or whatever this guy was stating towards the end of the episodes and the credits. He says he pretty much has a wiretap on our main guy and knows everything that's going on with him. And it kind of ushered me back to the main guy who's watching through the TV and stuff like that. It's like, is it the same type of way that he's, keeping an eye on our guy, the way he's grinding and stuff? Or is this a whole new, complete different way that this guy's keeping an eye on him? And with him finding out just how powerful our main character is, will there be any changes? Like, will anyone actually come and change anything in the game so he can't be that strong? Because last time I checked, him defeating these what I call notorious monsters from Monster Hunter, from Final Fantasy 11. They were just these monsters that would look kind of the same as others, but at the end of the day, they were massively different because they had a much more dangerous name, and not only that, they were just capable of doing newer attacks that other monsters were not capable of, even though they were from like the same family. For instance, it was like a sheep or like a ram, and then on the flip side, when the Notorious monster came out, it was like the sleeping deadly ram or something. It just had like a much more menacing name to it, and it was cool. But to see it in this show is so awesome. It makes me want to play Final Fantasy 11 so much more again. But because how everything is turning out, it's kind of obvious where our character's skills are going to continue to grow. If he is only fighting undead people, he's going to be an absolute monster. But as for the titles projecting, it told us what's coming next week, and with the people who were talking towards the end, which I thought the guy with the mech suit was going to be a good guy through the rest of the rest, but it kind of makes sense why he's not in the case of how the show kind of just writ him at this point in time. They were kind of just like, okay, and he wind up, uh, then he winds up leaving, like then he leaves with the kids and protects them, but we don't have any clear indication on where he took the kids or what he did with them after saving them. So that's kind of the red flag for me, right? Like all of a sudden you do this for you do it for the kids, you do it to help out and stuff, but for some reason they're not like shown where they're taken. So does this also have something to do with their plans and what they're going to do as a whole? Because to outright just tell us that there's going to be minimum casualties and someone wants a full-blown war and stuff like that, it's obvious to me that we're going to be seeing something absolutely nutty. And because of it, I am kind of afraid for our main character, because we all know if the situation calls for it, he's probably going to drop everything he's doing and fighting for to protect. And I'm not entirely sure that, the bad guys will know that information. But it's not too far-fetched to imagine that they can learn, right? Like, it shouldn't be that hard for them to figure this stuff out. And that's where the problem starts to lie, is when and what is going to be their objective during this whole um, minimum casualties and stuff like that. Because last time I checked, the only reason why there's probably going to be minimum casualties is uh, if everybody did what they were expected to do, I guess you can say. Like if they actually didn't just absolutely, go and destroy every single thing and destroy every single one, we might see just where this story is probably going to lead us at the end of the day. But to be fair, with our character showing us just the type of person he is since he was a kid and saving people, it's guaranteed that he's going to continue this trend and honestly try to save everybody. But with all that being said, I will talk to you in the next one because this show is getting really interesting and I'm glad that I picked it up. But I'm even more glad that they gave us some understanding of what this character brings to the table as a actual person and not just some really broken character inside the game. We are getting a full-blown understanding of just what he brings to the overall world. So, all that being said, let's see how this show turns out, and I hope you're having an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case may be when you're watching this. And I am your boy, the Anime G, and I will talk to you in the next one. Peace.